On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, Tony Bennett has retired. I know it feels like it happened forever ago. This is a problem with only doing one show a week. We're going to 2 shows a week very soon once the games get underway. But I have not talked about Tony Bennett retiring, and it happened last Friday. This is the first show since it happened, and I obviously have a lot of thoughts. Tony Bennett is a coach that I have loved for various reasons throughout his career, mostly at Virginia, if we're being honest. I mean, he was good at Washington State, but the Virginia run, I was a very early believer, very early adopter of the Tony Bennett brand of basketball, which he, of course, inherited from his father, Dick Bennett. And as Virginia was winning games in the ACC, and the naysayers were saying they will never do it, this is an antiquated form of basketball, all that sort of thing. I was like, I enjoy watching it. I got to be honest. It seems insane, but the efficiency with which they play, how cohesive the teams are, and on top of that, just how classy, which I think has become a word that when you use it in media to describe people in sports, it people think you're using that in a joking way at this point, because it's been beaten to death. But in Tony Bennett's case, he was just like all class and felt like a throwback in that regard, and like how he approached the job of coaching high-level college basketball. And then, of course, in 2019 is the big breakthrough after losing to the 16 seed. And his story at Virginia, the Tony Bennett era at Virginia, was an absolute joy as an outsider, as a guy who had zero ties to the University of Virginia, the state of Virginia, frankly, everything about Virginia basketball. Once Kyle Guy went there, he was an Indianapolis kid, so like I had that sort of tie, if such a thing existed, where I was like, I will cheer for the Indy kids, so I kind of had that, but that's pretty much it. That's the closest personal tie I had to that program, and yet I found myself just becoming a huge fan of the way he ran his program, the way his teams played, even though it was slow and at times a little monotonous. Like if you had the right mix of guys out there, it was actually a very beautiful brand of basketball, I thought. So anyway, Tony Bennett, I'll reflect on his retirement a little bit. In the meantime, the NBA is back. We do have real-life basketball, real-life meaningful basketball is happening on your television right now. Opening night, the Boston Celtics set the record for the most threes hit in any game in NBA history. The defending champions come out, open the next season by hitting 29 threes. They should have broken the record. For like the final 8 minutes of the game, they were bricking everything. But yeah, the Celtics, I mean, that's as emphatic as a title defense run can start, really. Opening night, they just destroyed the Knicks, and then we, of course, later in the night had the Bronny James situation, which we'll talk about a little bit as well. But other stuff around the league that came up. I mean, there's the Zach Edey thing, which I take no pleasure. Hold on, give me a second. Let me try this with a straight face. I take no pleasure in reporting that Zach Edey fouled out of his first game. That is something that I just really, really hate to see. Anyway, the NBA is back. Some exhibition games are going on around college basketball too. Duke looks awesome, as anybody that's paying attention expected them to. Kentucky is a team that has my attention. They beat the fuck out of like a Division II. Kentucky Wesleyan, I think, was who they played. They won by 71, but I might talk about them a little bit because I'm fired up about the Mark Pope era. And then the St. John's Rutgers game was probably the best so far, from what I've seen at least, of all the exhibition games, the secret scrimmages that are suspiciously on national television. That one was the best game, I thought, and the most fun to watch and all that. So maybe talk about that a little bit. Some recruiting stuff. A little hodgepodge show, but I want to mostly talk about Tony Bennett and the NBA being back. Let's get into it. All right, Tony Bennett announced last Friday, about a week ago now, that he is stepping down from the University of Virginia. I, like many others, thought, oh God, this is not good. This must be a health-related thing. The timing is very, very suspicious. What would compel a man who just signed an extension over the summer, what would compel a man to step away as we are, a little over a week, I guess it was about 2 weeks when he did it, away from 2 weeks from the season starting, he decides, I don't want this anymore. I'm stepping away. And the only thing that made sense to me, and I tweeted as much, was the only thing that made sense to me was that he knew he was going to retire, and he did it specifically at this time because he wanted his guy to take over for him. And he thought if I retired in April, if he retired in this past April, say after the season or in March, whatever, maybe Virginia doesn't. In fact, I know they would have. They would have done a national search. They would have maybe brought in a different guy. They wouldn't have promoted his guy. So maybe he did it that way. That's his father has done that in the past. This is kind of what Bo Ryan did with Greg Gard at Wisconsin. If you remember that in 2015, Bo Ryan was coming off of back-to-back Final Four appearances. They lose to Kentucky in the title game. There was some other shit off the court with Bo Ryan, but and people thought in the offseason Bo Ryan might step down. He's like, I'm not stepping down. I'm coming off Final Fours. I'm feeling good. Everything's good. Starts the season, and then December rolls around. He's like, whoop, I'm going to retire. And Greg Gard takes over. Now Greg Gard's still the coach. So maybe that was what was going on in his mind. And in the end, I guess that's what factored in. I got to say, and I love Tony Bennett. In fact, I feel confident enough to say that there is nobody with zero ties to the University of Virginia or the state of Virginia, as I said at the top, whatever, however you want to preface it. I would say there's nobody that loves Tony Bennett more than me. I am the number one national voice in terms of glazing Tony Bennett. It's me.
What's your favorite thing about Tony Bennett? Like, why are you such a Tony Bennett fan?
Because one, it's hard to, but this is why Virginia fans love me, because they're pretentious too. It's hard to talk about your love of Virginia basketball without just sounding like you smell your own farts, and you're just like, I love him because I understand the game at a level like these.
So you're talking
other
style of play.
Style of play. I think when you watch Virginia, they score 41 points in a game, and you're like, this is fucking like carve my eyes out.
Right.
But if you know what you're watching, and this is the part where it's like, okay, Titus, we get it. You
talk down to our listeners.
Yeah,
Titus,
you're smarter than everybody. If you know what you're watching and you watch the way the defense, especially the defense, like worked in unison, and the pack line and the helping of the helper and the hard hedging of ball screens, and all their rotations are on point. Every person on the floor knows exactly what they're doing and where to be. It just I think like when I used to write articles about Virginia, I used to liken them to like the German soccer team or something. Like when you watch just how like mechanical and methodical they go about their business, and it just felt like everybody's on the same page at all times. I don't know if that helps, if that's an analogy that even helps. Is there anybody out there listening or watching that's like, you know what, I didn't get it, but when you said German soccer team,
shaking their head.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah, that makes
Thanks for clearing that up.
But yeah, it was like, I'm not gonna lie, I would have loved to see them play up and down more and still find a balance. I don't love teams that score 40 points a game, but the mover blocker that they would run on offense, and like they just run shit that no one else would run, and the naysayers would be like, no one else runs this shit because it's not 1920, and I was like, I don't know, I think it can work. And I eventually what solidified my love for Tony Bennett in Virginia was that the biggest professional swing of my life was I picked Virginia to win the national championship when they lost to UMBC.
Oh, I thought you were going to say.
Well,
okay,
continue with me.
I'll sit here.
The story continues. I picked them to win the national championship. They lose to a 16 seed. I get clowned, as I should.
Yeah.
Well, you should.
Well deserved.
That's his business. You say the team's going to win the national championship, and they get humiliated by 16. Because remember, they didn't just lose; they lost by 20.
Yeah, they got smoked by a 16 seed.
Smoked. And I come back the next year, and I was looking in the mirror all offseason. I was like, maybe they're right. Maybe Virginia basketball can't work. Maybe there's something about this style of play. They have a good plan A. It looks good when everything is going exactly as planned. But when they go up against a team that's like hitting threes and the pack line gets extended a little bit, now guys can drive and kick on them a little bit. Their assholes get tight in NCAA tournament games, and it starts to fall apart. Like maybe it's just never going to happen. And then the 2019 tournament rolls around, and I was like, fuck it. I'm going down with the ship. I'm picking my boys again. In fact, the entire season, I remember just being like, I can't sit here and lie to you and say I don't think that this is going to eventually work. I think they're eventually going to have a breakthrough. And then 2019, they had just the most insane tournament run of all time. Just fucking pulling luck out of their ass left and right. And they won the national championship, and I felt like I won a national championship because I was like,
you were there for the peaks and the valleys.
I never felt more vindicated in my life.
You were right.
So I actually went to, I don't know if I've told you this, it's not a secret, but I went to the celebration in Charlottesville.
How so?
Because
like on your own accord, or like,
yeah, well, I promised,
friend of program.
I promised throughout the year, I was like, Virginia, we're in this together, if Tony and the boys can win I was like, when you guys lost to the 16 seed, that was the most humiliated I've ever felt as like a basketball knower. Like I have to get in front of a camera regularly and be like, no, I know ball, I promise. And then you lose to a 16 seed. Like, this is tough for me too now. And I said, if you guys can pull this off, like I think you have a chance to, I will come to the parade. I'll celebrate with all of you. And then they won, and I went to Charlottesville, and I was just standing there, and I was like, this is fucking awesome. No, I'm a man of my word. So yeah, it was that, but I honestly, and this is tough for me because again, I understand how corny it sounds, and it especially in this era of college sports and all that, it's just corny. That's the only way to put it. But I still, if you've listened to my show or watched my show long enough, you know that this is one of my fatal flaws. Is I still believe in like a little bit of the Mayberry element of college sports and the the good old days when you're.
So what is this retirement though? Like that part's gone now.
I know. So that's I was gonna say that's the other thing I loved about Tony Bennett is that he was one of the good guys. You know what I mean? Like he was like he made it watching the way he like when they lost to UMBC and he does the immediate right outside the locker room interview and he's just like I forget what he said, something about like it gets dark before the darkest before the dawn or some shit like that, and he just like
Batman.
the way he always carried himself, and he lost with class, he won with class. That stuff still matters, and I understand for a lot of people they're just like, who gives a fuck, dude? Let's just play basketball. You're making millions of dollars to coach basketball. Like, who gives a fuck? Just go out there. Like, why are we pretending like these kids are going to school or that they need life lessons or I don't need this isn't John Wooden teaching his team how to put socks on like Bill Walton used to talk about all the time. It's like we don't need that shit anymore. So like, who cares? For me, and again, this is like one of my flaws is I still. I don't think it's a necessity anymore. I'm not that naive, but I still value it when I see it, and I'm still like, that's pretty fucking cool that a guy cares about that sort of thing. So for that reason, I love Tony Bennett as well. And anyway, massive loss for the sport.
Yeah, I think what I would say as a former basketball coach, I've always envied Tony Bennett for a couple reasons. The first in which is he never had. Like when you see Steph Curry just take over a game by himself, or you just see a LeBron take over the game by themselves, he didn't have those people.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of times the good players make coaches look good.
Yeah.
Tony Bennett has his thumb on the program to the point where like that was a successful program because of Tony Bennett.
Yeah.
So that's very impressive. The second thing is, like you said, he always seemed to take the high road in all aspects of everything.
Yeah.
And it's like almost poetic that I don't necessarily agree with how he did it or when he did it.
Right.
But why did he do it? And the reason why he did it is because this is no longer the pure game that Tony Bennett could have his thumb on.
Right. And I think well, first of all, I thought I said it earlier. If I didn't, I will say I don't love the timing. I understand what he was thinking.
It's a common move to.
I don't love it though.
To handpick your successor.
I'm a little critical of that, just in that like I don't know if it's fair to the players. Now, I do think Ron Sanchez is well liked as far as I know, and I think, but it doesn't matter. I
put yourself in the shoes of a recruit that just signed for Virginia, and don't get me wrong, Virginia also is not a one and done hotbed. Like these people signed there. And their parents had their kids sign there to be coached by Tony Bennett, who I'm sure was telling them, like, I will be raising your kid for the next 3-4 years.
Right.
That no matter if they got their right guy, no matter if he's a liked guy, he lied to them.
He kind of.
And that sucks because that's not a Tony Bennett move.
That's not a Tony Bennett move. But then if you, he would argue he's looking after his guy. So I don't like how that and he signed the extension. For me, it's like. And I will say this too, Tate. This is not him retiring was not a shock, and I'm not trying to do the like I had a scoop and I just sat on it type thing. I didn't, but there were whispers for the last couple of years that he was disillusioned with the state of college sports, right? And then you sign an extension, and I was kind of like, all right, maybe not. Like I had heard rumblings, if you want to call it that like Tony, because when Jay Wright retired, that was kind of like a moment where it's like, oh, this 100%. Guy that we thought was going to be around for 20 more years is saying like, I kind of did what I set out to do, and this game is changing. I I don't know if it's for me. I'm going to step away. And Tony Bennett felt like a guy who could do that, and especially, even as a guy that defends his play style, I will say the game is changing rapidly. And part of what made the pack line defense work, and not even part of, like the big thing that made a pack line defense work, is when you're packing all your defense in and making people, like daring people to shoot threes. It used to work because people there weren't lineups where like 5 guys are bombing threes and teams are very comfortable shooting threes. So you were like setting a trap for other teams to throw up shots they didn't want to throw up. Now in modern basketball, they're like, no, this is what we want. We all want to shoot threes. So
it's easier to outshoot a pack line defense out of what they want to do now with how the skill of the game has changed.
And his offense was always a little antiquated. And when they broke through in 2019, they did so not because it's weird because I felt vindicated, like the Bennett ball works, but at the same time, the 2019 team did get away from it a little bit offensively because he had 3 NBA players, Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter, and he's spreading the floor more, and Ty Jerome's like waving guys off and getting ball screens up top and stuff. Like he was running a little bit more modern type stuff.
I mean, they scored 85 points in their national championship game. Overtime, but still.
And so now you look back on it and you're like, well, did Bennett ball win out, or did a roster full of NBA backcourt players sort of win out? And I don't know. And the game was changing. And so I'm not stunned that he did this. I think it's, for me, it's more the timing. And either way, I'm sad about it because I did see a lot of people just sort of first of all, I didn't know there were Tony Bennett haters. I don't know how you hate Tony Bennett.
Yeah, what's their biggest ammo? Pre this decision, because I can hear you say this is not best for the kids. Pre this, Tony Bennett's one of the good guys, and he's a hell of a coach.
Overrated that he's a – I thought when he won a national title, it'd be like, oh, okay, so never mind. We can't say you choke. But then he went back. They kind of went back to choking, and everyone's like, well, that was a fluke when you won the national title. And I'm like, how do you have a fluke? You can't have a fluke national title. You can't have a – Kevin Ollie won a national title. Kevin Ollie's not a good basketball coach. Kevin Ollie won a national title. I can't sit here and tell you he won a national title. You can't fluke your way to 6
35 and 3. They won the ACC with Duke, and Carolina were all good. Florida State was top 10 team in the time. You can't fluke.
You can't fluke your way to national. You can get lucky as fuck. Now I will. Granted, if ever a fluke existed, maybe it's there. Like they were lucky as fuck in a lot of different turns, but I still you cannot fluke your way to national championship. Can't happen. And like you said, the regular season, they were so good. They had
were they the number 1 overall seed? They might have been 2.
2019 they were. I don't believe they were.
Yeah, they were. I believe so. Coaches poll at the end of the year, they were 1. AP, they were 2. So going into it, they were.
Who was 1?
Was it Duke?
That was the Duke. That was the Zion Duke team, by the way. That was they won the ACC over the Zion Duke team,
which is
So he won the ACC 6 times, 6 regular season championships, and like
you don't need to defend Tony right now to the haters. You don't need to do that.
But I don't need to do that. But I did see there's a belief, and it's not even just Tony. It's like the same sort of thing happened when Jay Wright retired and Nick Saban on football, who he was a little older, so it wasn't a shock. But it is sort of a shock because you're like, Saban still had – it feels like he had gas left in the tank. And he even said as much when he retired. It was like, I'm not retiring because I'm old and tired. I'm retiring because, like, Jalen Milroe's my quarterback.
Do you think – That's what he said. Because I thought there was some sort of a natural connection between this retirement and Saban's retirement. But Saban is more like you're a my way or the highway type guy.
Yeah.
And this doesn't – what do you get the vibes on for – like, why is NIL world, transfer portal world not good for Tony Bennett?
Tony Bennett does not want to deal with Tony Bennett at his core, and I believe this to be true. Tony Bennett is a teacher, and he does not see himself as I don't know. I don't need to make this argument for him, but I would believe if the way I'm reading it is that he sees himself as a teacher, and there's a lot of used car salesman types, and that has become like what it takes to succeed in this modern era of college basketball. And I don't think he's wrong. I think when you're recruiting guys, you used to be like, here at the University of Virginia, we have an unbelievable, rigorous academic. Like when Malcolm Brogdon was there, he was living on the fucking like the quad they have, like the lawn they call it. I think he's staying in these buildings. I remember this because again, I was like really into Virginia basketball with those teams. They were so good, so fun to watch. I remember there was like a special story of Malcolm Brogdon was living on the fucking lawn in this building that was built in like 1600, some shit like that, and only the most elite of the elite get to live there. And Malcolm Brogdon is like, he's not just taking bullshit basket weaving classes. He's here to learn, and he's here to become a better citizen and a better man, and all that sort of thing. And you know, as corny and as hokey as it sounds, there are like the old guard of coaches did see it that way, where they would go recruit guys and sit in their living room and be like Kyle Guy, who I've come to know personally pretty well, says as much about like his recruitment of Tony Bennett. Kyle Guy grew up an Indiana fan. Kyle Guy took visits to Indiana. He ended up not going to Indiana, and he'll tell you because like when Tony Bennett recruited me, I was like, that. Never mind the basketball. Like that's a guy that like he's like a father figure. That's like it feels just like that's a guy that I trust with my life.
Exactly.
And I think somewhere along the line with the NIL and the, you know, and everybody misconstrued Tony Bennett's complaint, which is like, you're just mad that the players are making money. I don't think it's that. I think it's that Tony Bennett doesn't want to go into living rooms and sit down with players and instead of them being like, can you help me get a degree? Can you help me, make sure that I'm on the right path? And the parents aren't asking for shit like that like they used to. They're asking for, can you give me $50,000? Can you give me $200,000? Can you give me, that sort of shit? And
well, that's my thing. So that has gone by the wayside, and that's why Tony Bennett's retiring. But what I think truly actually hurts me about like the future of college sports is what is now a good college basketball coach?
Yeah.
Like, what are the characteristics of a successful? Like, you want to hire a used car salesman, or you want to hire someone that's like smooth, but not really about that, not really about helping kids, but more like getting that sucks.
But that's what I mean. That's what like a lot of people heard Tony Bennett say that, and they're like, well, fuck him, dude. He can't hack it in the new world. Like, get out of here. Let's get a new guy in who can. And I think it's okay to be like, I don't mind. I don't mind the players getting paid. I don't have a problem with that. Why would I have a problem with that? I don't have a problem. Like, I want everybody to be able to do what they want. At the same time, I would like a little more. I would like coaches who value relationships and want to be teachers and want to be, I think the sport needs more guys like that and fewer guys that are just like making monetary promises, and then like, when the player stabbed them in the back, they stab the player in the back, and then they're just fucking stepping on other people's heads. I don't think that that's a world that we should really encourage. But also I will realize that I'm very naive in all this, right. And I come across like a.
I don't know if you saw this, but it is not all about NIL and money anymore. AJ DeBance's dad said that it's not about NIL. If he's offered $5 million to go here or $3 million to go here, he still might go to the $3 million school. He still might. So it's not all about the money.
It seems like BYU is the move. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, but
that's what they're saying.
Last time you and I talked about this, it was $9-10 million.
I know.
It's $5. Was he taking a 50% pay cut?
Well, I mean, I think everybody saw that he might be in cahoots with Jeff Goodman.
Yeah.
So I think like the association with Jeff Goodman drove his price down. It cut it in half. I think that's what it was. I think Goodman put out a number, and I think the whole market was like, "What the fuck?
Yeah,
you're dealing with Goodman?
Had him in his
shit, dude. Never mind, $9 million. We'll give
down to $5,
4.5, $5.
But it seems like BYU.
It does seem like BYU.
Which is crazy.
That's what they're saying. Anyway, Tony will be missed. The beat goes on. I will say that. Like, I mourn the loss of this era of coach, but I also understand that like if I'm going to stop and mourn changes that happen in society and the world at large and the things I like, then I'll never do anything else. And maybe I won't. And maybe, you know what, Tate? Maybe that's what my life is now. Maybe that's what getting old is. It's just stopping and just being like, another change, huh? Fuck. But I will continue to do that. I'll continue to beat the drum for guys that I think, like Izzo is that way. That's why Izzo, it's easy to shit on Izzo, but it's like, I think Izzo, is still cut from that cloth. I think Matt Painter is. I think there's still guys out there that are like trying to do it their way. And I'll celebrate those guys when they have success and all that sort of thing. So anyway, Tony Bennett, 2-time National Coach of the Year, won the ACC 6 times. A nice parting gift to NC State. NC State doesn't go to the Final Four if Tony Bennett fouls up 3. That's a fact.
Oh, wow.
ACC tournament, up by 3 points, does not foul. NC State hits the shot, and then they go to the Final Four. One final parting gift to the ACC from Tony Bennett was getting an ACC team to the Final Four on his way out.
That's how the dominoes fall.
But yeah, that's I think that's pretty much it. I don't know. I'm sad about it, but what can you do? What can you do? And Ron Sanchez seems like a
How's Virginia? I mean, Virginia was 5th in the AP. Yeah. I'm sorry, the preseason media poll for the ACC. The only thing I have about him handpicking his coach, this coach doesn't have time to come in and make it his team. It's not his program this year.
I think too. I thought I was done with Tony, but I could probably talk about him for hours. I think another thing that I failed to mention is his style of play, and Jay Wright was this way too, where the model of having guys come in, sit as freshmen or like play sparingly. Now there were exceptions. Jalen Brunson starting a point guard as freshman. Like the guys who were really fucking awesome, of course, they break through. But you sit, you learn. Sophomore year, you're a role player. Junior year, you have a breakout. Senior year, you're the leader of the team. Like that whole model of the ebbs and flows of a program are important, and you have those core guys come through the program, and by the time they're seniors, they're teaching the young guys. The transfer portal, like right or wrong or whatever else, the transfer portal arrives, and Virginia, I do think Virginia struggled too because they have the deal that some schools out there have where it's like the admissions department. I think Michigan has this too as well, where like the admissions department is like stingy about like what transfers they bring in and shit like that. So I think he was having trouble getting transfers, and then even when he was getting transfers, he's like, it's kind of hard to teach the system to just new guys, and then guys are leaving. And, I don't know. When you get into a business and it's one way, and by the time, you've been in it for 20 years and it's completely different, I think that's a fair – I don't fault him at all for leaving. I will say the timing kind of stinks and the circumstances stink, but, that's the way it goes. And maybe it's for the best because Virginia has kind of fallen off a little bit. Mm-hmm. A little bit. They've fallen off a little bit, but I still love Tony and will always love Tony, and we'll always have 2019, the God's playing season. The Mark Titus Show is brought to you by DraftKings. Does your favorite NBA player have what it takes to be crowned king of the court? Find out at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. DraftKings is offering $1 million a day in bonus bets for the first 10 days of the NBA season. That's $10 million in bonus bets. Let me double check that math. That is correct. $10 million in bonus bets. Here's how to shoot your shot. Opt in and get a daily NBA profit boost token. Pick a pregame NBA player prop to boost. If that player leads the league that night in points plus rebounds plus assists, you win a share of $1 million in bonus bets. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code TITUS. That's code TITUS, TITUS. To win a share of $1 million in bonus bets. If your player is king of the court, only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. The NBA is back.
It is.
We have real-life basketball happening. I think the story, so we're recording this Thursday afternoon, so we've had 2 nights of games. The first night was just the doubleheader, and then last night was
everybody got a game.
Basically everybody. I think there are a handful of teams that still haven't played, but the story for me so far is the Boston Celtics, the team that won the championship last year, the team that brought basically everybody back. Mm-hmm. I'm looking around the landscape of the NBA. I'm trying to figure out who got that much better, and I'm not saying I'm ready to crown the Celtics again already, but they hit 29 threes.
Scored 43 points in the first quarter of the opening night against the Knicks. You want to talk about teams that are supposed to be better? The Knicks gave up 43 points in the first quarter.
Crazy. It's crazy, and it's kind of they're kind of ruining basketball. But they're also so fun to watch. When you put 5 guys on the floor that can shoot, it's so fun. But it's also like I don't know how to pretend for 81 more games that. And then the playoffs. I mean, I'm trying to think here. The Thunder could be good. Maybe the Thunder don't fuck it up in the playoffs like they did last year. The Timberwolves don't. I mean, they lost that same night against the Lakers. They don't seem like they're going to be that much better.
Do you think Jason Tatum took it personal how he won a title and then everyone was just like, those were terrible finals? And then he comes out night 1, 37 points, 10 assists, hits 8 threes.
Well, that's the thing is like somehow. We as a basketball world allowed the Celtics to win the title and then come back with a chip on their shoulder somehow.
We did that. We did that.
You did that. I did that.
You did that.
What did I do?
Replay the tapes after the Celtics won the title, and you're like, well, I mean, Tatum. Tatum. I mean,
Tatum did say I did. That was me. I did say that. Tatum was Jaylen Brown was better. But then Jaylen Brown's not put on the Olympic team, so he's like,
that's true.
Fuck all of you. Tatum gets put on the team, doesn't play. He's like, fuck all of you. Derek White, I guess, is just fuck all. Just like that's just I don't know what Derek White's gripe would be. But
yeah, he should be right now. Well, then he got the guy that stole his hat in the Colorado State game.
That's right. He gets in a fight. He gets in a fight at a college football game.
Shoulder.
So he's like, fuck that guy. And now all of a sudden the Boston Celtics are like an underdog team, even though they're a fucking juggernaut.
We have made them not an underdog because you're right. Like, you don't want to crown them champions, but like, did you see them play the other night? They're good. But it's almost like, and I was as guilty as anyone, we have talked up these improved how good this Eastern Conference is going to be to the point where like the Celtics have to be like, have you guys watched us?
The two contenders in the East, from my perspective, and you and I are going to throw in our biases in a second, but I think if you would ask a national audience, how many contenders are there that could theoretically stop the Celtics from winning another championship in the East, it's the Philadelphia 76ers, it's the New York Knicks. Those seem to be it. Now, there might be others that emerge. You're going to say the Cavs should be in the mix. I'm going to say the Pacers should be in the mix. We're both probably wrong, but maybe we're right. Point is, if you're only looking at the Knicks and the Sixers, what we have right now, based off of one game, it is one game. Let's not overreact, but also, what else are we supposed to do? I have a microphone in front of my face and lights on me. I'm going to overreact. The Celtics hit 29 threes against one of those teams. It was never a game. If you turn it on 10 minutes after it started, you missed all the suspense. It was over almost as soon as it started. Everybody was getting in on the action. The whole fourth quarter was just like kind of a fucking joke. They were trying to get the record. Everybody's just throwing up like circus shots trying to hit the final three.
It was senior
night. Yeah. They're throwing the walk-ons in and just like asking them to throw a three up. So the Knicks, I don't know how you can watch that game and be like, yeah, the Knicks are right there. Meanwhile, the Sixers, Paul George and Embiid are both out, and
we're investigating Embiid.
Yeah, and Embiid's under investigation, and we're unsure of how much he's going to play. And he's saying, "I'm saving it for the playoffs," and you're like, I don't know. So like, what else are you supposed to think? What else are you supposed to think? But the Celtics are going to.
You're right. Like I can't believe that we did all this preseason talk like, oh, the East's going to be good, and then one game in, we're both just like, well, no, it's not. But with that being said, let's not disrespect Giannis and the Bucks.
That's true.
Let's not disrespect Giannis and the Bucks. And let us not you said I'm going to give my personal opinion. Let's not disrespect the Cavs.
Cleveland Cavaliers.
The new look.
Are you saying new look?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, is it
new coach,
new look?
New feature of the team. Obviously, Donovan Mitchell's still there. Did you see Evan Mobley last night?
He's good.
New animal. Like 27 minutes or whatever he played. 25 points, 9 rebounds, going coast to coast. We've unleashed him. He's going to be most improved player.
He looked awesome. It does look like a breakout year is coming for him. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard not to overreact.
The
Magic are fun. I think the Magic are. How do I say it? I'm trying to think of like, I don't think the Magic are serious title contenders, but they're going to be a team that I am mad is not on national television more this year.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be mad. Like, I'm gonna catch them in a game and be like, why? What? Can I get more of this? And the media companies are gonna be like, no, sorry, that was your one Magic game a year.
Here's what the Magic and the Cavs and the Pacers, probably not the Bucks, they're probably a little bit better than that. Here's what they're gonna be this year. If the Sixers don't figure their shit out in the regular season, like if they're really gonna wait and beat, they're gonna have to match up with one of those teams in the first round.
That is true,
and then that's a problem.
Well, the Sixers, it feels like that's their plan. It feels like the way Embiid was talking at the start of the season, and he doesn't play opening night. He says he's not playing second night of back-to-backs. It feels like the Sixers as a franchise, their plan is, and really it's just an extension of Joel Embiid. He's like, I've won MVPs in the past. I've had these great regular seasons. Enough of that. I get killed every year because I fall apart in the playoffs. I'm putting all my focus on the playoffs. And then one game into the season, I hate to make Connor Griffin be the voice of all Philly fans, but he's unfortunately become that for me in my life. Connor Griffin's already like, well, what the fuck? This is crazy. We got Joel Embiid sitting out games. But I also think that that's like a fair. If you're a Sixers fan, like that feels. You spend all offseason getting excited about the Paul George era and about like we're revamped and we got Tyrese Maxey has finally like broke through, and he's a fucking star in this league, and you have 3 guys. Your top 3 are as good as anybody's top 3 in your mind. You're like, our top 3 can go toe-to-toe with anybody. And then the season starts and 2 of them aren't playing.
Which has been the knock on them.
And now you're like, that's been the knock on Embiid in the past, and now you just have the carrot dangle in front of you, like, wait till the playoffs. What happens when the playoffs get here? And like you said, you're matched up against a really fucking good team because you're like the 6 or the 7 seed.
Yeah, holding out Embiid in hopes of the playoffs might be like, hey, it gives us a good chance to be at our best in the playoffs. But when you have to go to New York,
right,
a 7-2 matchup in the first round, and then you get bounced, you all look like clowns.
Yeah. And now you set out the whole season, and now you get bounced, and then the Sixers fans are like, what the fuck was that? What was that season?
And don't get me wrong, it's easy to play Monday morning quarterback, but wouldn't you rather go give it your best and then try and get that 2-3 seed and then go clean the clocks of whoever?
Yeah.
Instead of putting it in for the playoffs.
I know. This feels like a move of this feels like a Lakers move, like with an old LeBron.
Yeah.
It feels like something the Lakers or like a team that or maybe the Nuggets would do this at this point because they're like, we've already won one. Like we're gonna keep our eye on the bigger prize. The Sixers have not. The Sixers have not come particularly close to winning a championship.
Exactly.
So I don't think you can just say we're just gonna flip the switch when the playoffs come when you're not a team that's proven to even know where the switch is, much less how to flip it. You only know where it is. But anyway, that's we're probably overreacting. The NBA can ebb and flow for sure, but the Celtics, they're just everybody that sees the floor can shoot. That's not fair.
It's the best. It's the same thing we talked about in the finals. They are just unselfish, and they play a brand of basketball with the skill, with the perfect person.
I'm going to say this as a compliment. Again, we did this throughout the playoffs, and sensitive Celtics fans like Cody took it the wrong way. But I mean it as a compliment that it almost does become boring how good they are because they not only can all hit threes, but because they can all hit threes, the defense gets spread out, and then you get dudes driving and kicking, and they're wide open threes. And then when you boil it all down, you're like, I just watched 2 hours of dudes just shooting wide open threes.
Yeah. We got to break.
And they won by 30. And you're like, that. I mean, they're good, and I respect the fuck out of it, but like I said earlier, you took all the suspense out. It's opening night. It's the very first real NBA game of the season, and within 5 minutes, it's over.
Yeah, we need a little drama.
I was like, well, what the hell? What do I do for the rest of my night? But thankfully, Tate, there was another game on that night that I could lock back into.
I can't believe you led off with, I'll say this, disrespectful of you to say the story of the night was the Celtics.
Well, here's my thoughts on Bronny is
man, what a moment.
I really thought it would be cool, and it was just not. And I wasn't a hater about it. I wasn't like, get this shit off my TV. I was like, this is cool. And this, to me, it was like, it's like a mom on Instagram posting, like, my kid drew this in class today. And I'm like, listen, I don't want to bring negative energy to this and tell you that, like, you shouldn't be happy and you shouldn't put that piece of art on your mantle or your fridge, wherever you put it. I'm just here to tell you, I don't give a fuck. Where I'm sitting, I don't really care. This isn't really, but yeah, of course, if I was LeBron James and the James family, this would be the coolest thing ever.
Right.
As a consumer of basketball, I was prepared. And we talked about it in the offseason when he was drafted. I was like, listen, he shouldn't get drafted. He's not good enough to get drafted, whatever. Having said all that, I do think when the moment comes, it's going to be really, really cool. It's going to be a cool moment.
Letdown.
It was a letdown to me. I can't lie. It was I watched. I was like, I don't know.
The thing I hate about this entire ordeal is it always comes down to my take is always having to be anti-Bronny when he really didn't ask for any of this. But there's a huge difference between a dad who's in the NBA and a son who had to work his ass off to get all the way up there and earned it. And then all of a sudden, wait, they're checking in together. That's really cool. Yeah. This whole thing was scripted. LeBron is the puppet master back there. Rich Paul is the puppet master being like, he's only going to the Lakers. Then the Lakers draft him. Then on opening night, they just so happen to go in at the same time.
There's no suspense. There's no like, holy shit, he actually did. If he would have gone to the G League and grinded for a couple years, and then like, even if they faked it that way, and it's like, we're calling him up, and you're like, oh my god, this is a cool story that he. It was none of that. Like, Bronny could have had a peg leg and they still would have drafted him and thrown him out there on opening night. How do you
feel about so the night before they were already like reporting, like reports are this will be happening tomorrow.
Right.
How do you feel about the double entry at the same time? Like that wasn't organic. Do you have a feeling either way?
I guess I always pictured it happening that way. So I wasn't that didn't really stand out to me.
Okay.
I always just I knew LeBron would want it to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
That because they're very image conscious. So the idea of having the pictures going off of both of them walking in together. You see James and
maybe we could have got like, you know how like the old high school move, like you got to go high five the person you're going in for and ask them who they're guarding or give them a towel. That would have been cool. Like, hey Dad, who you got?
Yeah.
Like, here's your towel, Dad, for the bench.
Greg Gard used to do that shit.
I was a towel guy.
You were a towel guy?
Yeah. Everyone on my bench holds a towel, and then when I say, Aaliyah, go get Harp, she goes in, hands the towel. And now you know where you are in the press. You know who you're guarding, and they have a towel.
And you also know
they have a towel.
And most importantly, they can towel off. And you'll never have 6 people on the floor if you do that.
Did you see that last night?
No.
This is no offense. Like, again, I don't want to make this the Cleveland Cavs show, but we fired JB Bickerstaff. He goes to the Pistons. 6-man on the court technical last night. Like, come on. Sorry to interrupt.
Were you did I say that was a Greg Gard move or a Bo Ryan move?
You said Greg.
I meant to say Bo Ryan.
Okay.
Because I just now caught myself. That was a Bo Ryan move. We're talking a lot of Wisconsin. I did not expect to talk Wisconsin basketball this much on the show. Bo Ryan was also if one of your starters has a turnover in the first possession, you sub him out.
No.
Move.
You dance with who you took.
Yeah.
It's like,
it was so funny. I remember Sam Decker. That's just where my mind goes back. Sam Decker, like freshman year. I don't even think he started though. But Sam Decker would like check into games and would have a turnover on his first touch, and he would just immediately pull him.
What does that do
right
as a player? like I get the hard ass move out of the coach, like we don't turn the ball over, but that gets right between your ears, doesn't it?
I think so.
You're now playing with a tight asshole, so
yeah, you can't play with a tight asshole.
No.
That's a fact. I've tried it. It won't work. Zach Edey.
I've noticed you moping around here today,
Zach Edey,
because you really don't want to talk about this.
I thought so. I thought 2019 Virginia winning the national title would be my greatest vindication.
Mm-hmm.
I think Zach Edey fouling out. I think Zach Edey becoming the first player in the history of the NBA, Tate, to foul out in less than 15 minutes in their debut game. After all of last season, when, as a reminder, and you can check the tapes, I never said Zach Edey was bad. I still think Zach Edey's going to be good. This is not my reaction from the game last night is not Zach Edey's a bust and doesn't belong in the NBA. He's going to play for 10 years. He's going to be, if nothing else, a great screen setter, a great lob catcher, a great rebounder. All of these things will help him stick around in the league, and I think he's going to have a fine NBA career, and you'll look back on it and be like, yeah, that was a solid career.
Mm-hmm.
He'll have a game where he scores 25, and Purdue fans are like, see, we knew he had that in him, whatever. All last year, all I was saying was that there reached a point in the Zach Edey experience, and basically every Big Ten fan will back me up on this, where you're not saying – because there was a sentiment for a while, he's just tall, he's not good. I was never saying that. He was good. But every single possession was either he's fouling or he's getting fouled, and the refs don't know what to do, and he's turning to make post moves, and he's throwing his elbows into necks as he's going up for baby hooks, and defenders are like, what the fuck am I supposed to – and then on the next time down, they're pushing on him, but then they get called for a foul, and they're like, what the hell? And then coaches are losing their mind. And then I said, I'm just kind of over the experience. I'm over – it's like not an enjoyable watch. And then Purdue fans said, and this is true, they said this, it's not Zach Edey's fault. He's not doing anything. I was like, he's fouling every fucking time down the floor. They're not calling it. He's going in for offensive rebounds, just pushing guys in the back and grab. And it got to a point where I was like, I don't. It's just not a fun watch. It's not.
Agreed.
He's good as fuck. I'm not saying he's not. He's very skilled for how big he is. It's just become like I don't want the parade to the free throw line, and then you're watching as someone on the other team, and you're like, he's fucking every time he's elbowing our guy. Like what do we got to do? And that's what the Zach Edey experience became. And then he plays less than 15 minutes in literally one NBA game, and he fouls out. He gets 6 fouls, and you get an extra foul, Tate. You get an extra foul in the NBA. It's incredible. It's like every Big Ten fan was like, this is what we were saying. No one said he wasn't good. We were just saying just like it's chaos out here. He does foul. He's not the greatest defender. You had Purdue fans last year trying to tell me that he was the greatest defender college basketball had ever seen, and I was like, this is fucking bonkers. I felt like I was living in banana land, and now
it was. I'll give it to you this. It was poetic. Like if this happens in Game 7 or if this happens in Game 18, whatever. The fact that he just went through that entire time without it and then fouls out in his first game in a very small amount of time.
So good.
You got what you got what you
I got what I wanted. I'm done.
Congrats.
I can put my sword down. The fight is over. I don't even care what happens the rest of his career. This is one of two things has to be true. Either the Memphis Grizzlies all offseason brought in Zach Edey, drafted him 9th overall, and they said, you know what, Zach? We went back and watched your tape at Purdue. You were really good at not fouling. Like you were really fucking good at not fouling. We want to clean that up. We want you to foul. We want you to that to be part of our strategy.
You get 6 of them.
Yeah. Just hack the shit out of people. Or, and this is again crazy to think, but like what if he kind of was very physical and refs just kind of didn't know what to do and they threw their hands up and were like, fuck it, I guess just let him play. And then he got to the NBA and refs were like, no, we're not going to let you play. That's a foul. One of two things has to be true. Now, I could be wrong. Memphis could have, when he was at Purdue, not fouled. And then when he got to Memphis, they were like, no. What we really need out of you tonight, 6 fouls. Give us 6 fouls in 14 minutes. And they did win the game, Tate. So
that's the thing.
Maybe there's some truth to that.
Like there's the Mark Tituses of the world are going to take their victory laps this morning and be like, oh, did you guys see the fouls that Zach Edey had? Does Zach Edey give a fuck? Truly, do you think? So they won. He obviously didn't have a great game. He had 5 points, 5 rebounds. Had a plus, minus, and fouled out. Mm-hmm. They won. Do you think he cares that like the whole world?
He shouldn't.
I told you you're fouling at Purdue.
I don't think he cares. But I'll say this: I don't care that he doesn't care.
Doesn't impact you at all.
And you know what? I don't think he cares that I don't care that he doesn't care. But I'll say this: I don't care.
Let me tell you this:
he doesn't care that I don't care that he doesn't care.
I don't think Zach Edey cares that you don't care that he doesn't care that you don't care. That's what I don't think.
Oh man, that was.
But he did it. He fouled out.
This is gonna sound like a joke, but I won't say I'm like rooting for him because if he flames out in the NBA, it's not like I'm gonna be sad. Yeah. But I do think it'd be cool. I do think I genuinely do like anomalies in pro sports. And I think guys who don't fit a particular mold that carve out a lane for themselves, or teams that don't fit. Maybe that's what, like going back to Tony Bennett, maybe that's what drew me to him, was like I like watching sports being surprised. I like watching sports seeing something that's different. I like all of these things are what keep me coming back to basketball especially. And that's ultimately, I've made this point before on the show, that's ultimately what makes me like college basketball so much, is that it's still a sport where, you know, you have your Tony Bennett's, not anymore obviously, but you have your Tony Bennett's like, I think the best way to play this sport is to try to score 45 points. Mm-hmm. And then you have your Nate Oates that you're like, I think the best way to play the sport is to try to score 120 points. And you can have success in all sorts of different ways. So all of that is to say, I do think the idea of like a 7'4" guy, you know, bringing back the 90s big man and dumping it into him, and he's hitting baby hooks and he's moving guys out of the way and dunking on them, all that. I love the idea of that. I just want it to be an earned thing where, you know, like he doesn't just fucking throw his elbow in someone's neck to. Yeah,
he's gonna have to. He's gonna have to adapt.
So, not that that's why he fouled out last night, but I don't know, just the fact that he fouled out after all the bickering.
It was poetic.
In fact, I walked in this morning. You know what? You know who's more fired up about it than Big Ten fans,
and that?
Even Indiana fans, Tennessee people.
Oh, Big T was chirping.
Dude, I walked in this morning. Big T. I have nothing against Big T, but we don't talk a ton.
Yeah.
He's been on the show before. We'll every so often compare notes about Dalton Connect, but like for the most part, I see him a lot. I'm like, hey, Big T. He's like, hey, we keep it moving. We don't really.
He's waiting at the door for you this morning.
Waiting at the door. He's like, Mark. And he's just smiling. I was like, "Is this about Edey?"
I can see that grin.
He's like, "What a turn!" He said so similar stuff. He's like, "What a turn of events!" All of a sudden, he's a fouler, huh? Tennessee fans were fired up because they obviously lost to him in the tournament, and Edey got called for, I forget how many fouls. Find that box score, Cody. Give me the box score of give me like the foul disparity, because it was. I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but like Tennessee fans got their first taste of Edey in the tournament, and oh my God, they lost their minds. Like the Big Ten fans, we were used to it. By the time by the time like the end of the Big Ten tournament rolled around, we're all like, you know what, you've already killed us. We can't.
It was 25-12. I have. Edey had 40 points on 22 free throws.
How many fouls did Edey have?
I have the answer.
Is it 0? Is it 1?
Played 39 minutes, 1 foul. But listen, here's the thing. You and
Tennessee fans are so mad.
And I don't want to like rehash the debate of the entire previous season. But you know who you should be taking your victory lap on today is these Big Ten officials.
I know.
Like Zach Edey, what do you want him to do? Put his hand up in the air and be like, I got him.
I never said it was Zach Edey's fault. All I ever said was me as a viewer of the sport, I did the whole experience I'm out on. It's just not a fun.
Fair.
It's not a pleasant experience. I didn't say Purdue shouldn't. I didn't say like it's not fair and Purdue should stop dumping the ball into him. I didn't say Zach Edey should like if he feels like he fouled a guy, he should turn to the ref and be like, "Come on, man, I got him. You should blow the whistle." I never asked for any of that. I don't think it's their fault. I'm just saying when I was turning for a team that had a guy who was so dominant and was like breaking records left and right and is something like we've never seen in college basketball before. I couldn't believe how like out on the experience I was, and I was like, this was fun kind of last year, but like somewhere along the line, it's just become a parade to the free throw line.
It was,
and it would have been fine if it was offset by like when he was going up for offensive rebounds, and it wasn't every time, but it was a lot of times. He's like shoving dudes in the back. You're like, all I ask is just kind of call that, and then
you're just sitting on your couch like
cleans it up a little bit.
Dad at the top of the bleachers, both ways,
ref, come on. And then he gets to the NBA, and it's just interesting. It's interesting. That's all I'm gonna say. It's interesting. He plays 14 minutes and fouls out. And that's makes you think. And you know what? You know what the craziest part of all of it is?
What's the craziest?
Purdue fans are going to see this and still tell me I'm wrong. Can't get through to those people. The Mark Titus Show is brought to you by Cars.com. Buying a car sucks. There's no way around it. If you went the traditional route, as I did for most of my life, you probably thought it was a massive pain in the ass, much like I did for most of my life. And then I found Cars.com, and I realized I can't believe this has been missing my entire life. Cars.com makes it so easy. You want to find a trustworthy dealer. You want to find dealership reviews from shoppers like you. Cars.com offers the latest research, shopping tools, and dealership reviews to help every shopper find the perfect car. Shop by monthly payment or filter by features to find the cars that fit your budget and needs. You don't need to go in blind when you're doing this. Cars.com is here to help. Visit Cars.com to start exploring your next possibility today. Cars.com. We already talked about the Orlando Magic. I wanted to talk about them. Oh, the Intuit Dome. That's the last thing on the NBA I wanted to talk about. So last night the Clippers host the Suns. They lose in overtime. Kawhi Leonard's just not playing basketball ever again. I think Kawhi Leonard.
R.I.P.
I think he's just done. I think he's just he is Christian McCaffrey of the. I really think Christian McCaffrey's more the Kawhi Leonard at this point of.
Like the Spider-Man meme.
But it's not like McCaffrey's only doing this for this year. But what I mean by that is like the star that you just keep talking yourself into. You're like, just wait till he comes back. Wait till they still have that guy. Don't forget about him. And then it's just every time you look up, it's like he's going to be out for a couple more weeks. But once he gets back, and you're just going to keep kicking that can down the road,
See the latest update on Kawhi?
What's the latest update on Kawhi?
Former Los Angeles Clippers trainer Randy Shelton is suing the franchise for wrongful termination, among other things, after claiming he was fired for complaining that Kawhi Leonard was being subject to unsafe and illegal treatment for injuries.
What? So hold on. He's
alleging he was fired for complaining that they were illegally treating Kawhi.
So he's the trainer. So the team is telling him to do illegal things.
Or doing illegal things without his advising.
Without I'm still not sure I understand this. No, this is important. This was text worthy. Don't get me wrong, TJ. This was important. I'm just trying to understand why this is important.
Allegations of tampering years prior to signing Kawhi Leonard.
Oh, Kawhi Leonard was being subjected to unsafe and illegal treatment for injuries. What? But
so why does?
But I'm confused because he's the trainer. So you're hurt. You hurt your knee. You go to the trainer. You say, "How do I get my knee back?" He tells you how to get it back, and then now he's suing because he's like, "I tried to tell you guys that the treatment I was giving him was illegal."
I think he's saying, I'm pretty sure I know what he's saying, and that is that the Clippers were enforcing like poor practices, poor ways to handle Kawhi's injuries.
Got it.
And he was being forced to do things like get him on the court instead of do what's right for Kawhi.
Okay, that makes more sense.
But also, that seems like Kawhi should be the one upset about that.
Kawhi should probably be upset about that. But that doesn't give me confidence that he's coming back.
That's bad news for Kawhi.
That actually makes it feel the opposite.
It's literally like your dude that fixed your knee being like, yeah, and I didn't do a good job.
Well, also Kawhi was supposed to play in the Olympics. Even when he
in the picture, don't forget that.
Yeah, he was in the picture. Even when he was put on the team, there was still like, I mean, it's always Kawhi. I'll believe it when I see it when he gets out there. And then he doesn't play, and the silver lining, I guess, was that he was going to not play here, so that way he can play in the NBA season this year. And then now we have no idea when he's going to start. Like that doesn't. He's had how many months since the Olympics?
It doesn't make sense.
When it was supposedly he was like kind of fine going to the Olympics.
If you're questionable in June, you're ready to go in October.
You should be ready to go in October. And
he's
gotten no better since June, which tells me that his knees are just toast. He's just done, which sucks because he was a special dude. But anyway, where was I? I was talking about the Intuit Dome. The Clippers host last night the Suns. They lose in overtime. But this new Steve Ballmer arena was built with the idea that this is going to have a college basketball type feel to it. I don't know if you watched any of that game last night.
I saw the free throw situation.
The wall was cool. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I love what he's doing there, especially the toilets, which I don't know if I brought up on this show or mostly sports. Steve Ballmer did the interview with 60 Minutes showing off his new arena, and he goes, yeah, we have like 1,000 toilets in the arena. And the guy that's like doing the interview like just kind of laughed and tried to move past it. And I was like, no. Can we spend like another 20 minutes talking about these toilets? Because I think the toilet situation is one of the most important situations in an arena.
No doubt about it. I just went to Game 5 of the Guardians-Tigers.
Yeah.
Bad toilet situation. I'm out there at the stands while the game's going on.
It's crazy.
Toilet situation is key.
That's my number one bullet point on why Mackey Arena is the perfect college basketball arena.
Great restrooms.
Dude, wide restrooms. Wide.
For 1 and 2?
What? I don't know if I've ever number 2'd.
Someone from the Purdue area.
Somebody, yeah.
Take a shit and get back to us.
Yeah, I don't know how many Purdue fans I've left with this show.
And that drives me nuts because you are a donor of the university.
I'm a donor, and I'm excited for this year's team. I'm going to get back to the as an aside. This is a peace offering to Purdue fans. I'm in on Braden Smith being good, which they're like he's a preseason second team All-American or third team or something like.
Went on a limb there.
Preseason Big Ten Player of the Year. We don't need you to say that. You do need me to say it because I was one of the people that's like, I think he's good, but maybe Zach Edey's just creating so much space for him, and like he's hitting those little Chris Paul elbow pull-ups because Zach
now
Edey's,
it's him.
Now is he going to be able to create that separation? I think Purdue is going to spread the floor and have so many fucking athletes and shooters, and Braden Smith's going to be the maestro out there, and I think he's going to be fun to watch, and I'm fired up to watch Purdue's offense this year in a way that I wasn't last year, even though they had the National Player of the Year.
You continuously say nice things about Purdue, so you do not deserve that hate.
I don't get it. The Intuit Dome, though, I thought it was awesome. I thought I will say it wasn't. At no point was I like, am I watching a college basketball game?
Yeah.
It was still an NBA game.
Well, they said they wanted it to be like one of those international soccer games where there's just fires in the stands.
Yeah.
It's like, it was cool, but
it wasn't quite that, but it was, to me, markedly different than the normal NBA type crowd. So that's cool. And I do think Steve Ballmer, maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid, but I do think he genuinely cares about his franchise. And maybe it's just me seeing clips of him losing his mind.
Yeah.
And that does enough for me to be convinced. But I think that he's buying he's buying whatever he's selling to everyone else. Like he's drinking his own shit that he's serving up.
Like when Bosco and I did the draft of how we would start a college. I don't think he got drafted. He would be a great booster.
Yeah.
Because he cares. He's not just writing the checks. He is, how can we improve the facilities and how can we make it a better game? He cares about what's going on there.
And going back to kind of what I was saying about Edey and liking different things in pro sports and all that, I think that this is a great example of that as well. Is like I anytime a franchise says to themselves, let's try something different, let's do things a little bit different, especially at a time when basically every NBA arena that gets built, it feels like it's kind of the same. You go into all these NBA arenas and they're sort of, they all got the suites, they all got and this one did too. But the Halo thing was cool as shit. The wall is a cool thing. They're tweaking it enough to where it's like there was some thought and some heart that was put into this, not just thought, I should say. There was some like some passion that went into it versus just like a bunch of dorks in a boardroom saying like, if we squeeze this many seats and charge this much for season tickets, we'll make this much money, which is how, maybe I'm being cynical, but that's how I feel like most pro sports are operated these days. And you have a guy who's like, fuck it, dude, let's make an awesome atmosphere for people that love basketball. We'll see how much momentum they have throughout the entire season, because if Kawhi's not playing, Paul George isn't there anymore, you got a James Harden who's not getting any younger, and they're just relying on him to – the only way they're going to have a chance is him scoring like 35 a night. Like, at a certain point, you're going to look up, and they're like 12 games under 500. Are people still showing up? And
it's tough to have the most advantageous home field, home court when your team stinks.
Yeah.
Like, at what point? Even though last night Devin Booker said – he's like, that shit might work. He's like, AD missed free throws, I missed free throws. That place was wild.
Well, I'm curious the free agent part of it all. Like, I wonder if does that matters. I don't know. But the fact that two players on the opposing team were like, that's cool. I'm not saying Durant and Booker are like, man, I got to play for the Clippers now. But
it doesn't hurt. I mean, you're in Los Angeles, and it's an owner. I think the owner probably matters more.
The owner probably matters more. Well, if an owner is demonstrating that he cares to that level, I think that's the. He supplanted. I mean, Cuban's out of the game now, right? Cuban doesn't own the Mavs. He sold his stake, but Ballmer supplanted Cuban anyway.
Yeah,
as the crazy fan owner, right?
Cuban to me was obviously crazy fan owner, but was also like, let me get a 3 in the corner before the game type guy. Ballmer is out there starting like, let's go Clippers chants.
Right.
Like, he is.
Cuban wanted to be friends with the players.
Yes.
And Ballmer almost doesn't care. He's just like, I want to just cheer you guys on.
Ballmer will remind you that fan is short for fanatic, because that motherfucker is out there screaming.
Ballmer's like a proud team mom, and Cuban was like trying to be boys with the guys. I think that's what it was. I think that's the difference.
You might see Ballmer in like face paint at one point. Like, that's the difference.
Oh man. Some quick notes. Exhibition type. Oh fuck. I just got a text message from. I have a debt collector who. I don't know if I've ever said this publicly. I owe like I don't owe it. I don't know if I should say this publicly. I don't want to acknowledge it because I've never responded.
What the heck are you talking about?
I am erroneously being asked to pay off a debt that does not exist, and it's the biggest fucking pain in my ass to like, I don't know, I get texted like once every like 3 months. It's like, you want to square up that debt, and it's like $44, and it's not, and at this point it was a principle for me. It was always like, fuck you, I don't owe you that money, I'm not paying you that money.
Right.
It was a company that I don't want to say the company because I don't want to acknowledge that.
Right.
But it was like, they think I have their equipment. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
And I don't. And I have documented proof that I sent to them that I gave you your equipment back. And they're like, you still owe us for that equipment. I'm like, fuck you. That was 9 years ago. And now I'm in a 9-year battle, Tate, with this unnamed company who I owe like $50 to.
Right.
And they won't drop it. And I won't drop it because I'm like, I'm not at this point.
You're a man of principle.
Yeah. But I think it might be fucking my credit up.
I think what you need to do, my advice to you as someone who is younger and less experienced, you just need to tell them that you're working on it. Like every 3 months, like, hey, remember you owe us $40. Like, yeah, I'm like,
working on it.
Literally just picked up an extra shift at the factory for this.
No, I've had my wife every so often. She's in tears. She's like crying. She's like, Mark, just pay it. Just get these people out of our lives. She's crying. Mm-hmm. She's on her knees begging me, and I'm like, honey.
Say, honey.
It's a matter of principle.
Right.
A man has to have a code.
If you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. But if you teach a man to fish.
Anyway, I just got the text message. It's like once every couple months they hit me with the like. It's an automated bot, and they're like, hey, it's the debt collector. You owe us $44.20, and I'm like, no, the fuck I don't.
Yeah.
Some notes before we get out of here. Exhibition games are going on in college basketball. There were 3 of note to me.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, Kentucky.
Big win.
Won by 71 points against Kentucky Wesleyan. Now, it's a team that's not Kentucky Wesleyan is division God knows what, and them blowing them out should not be a surprise to anybody. What I wanted to make note of is, number one, they made 21 threes.
Mm-hmm. Shot 50% from the 3-point line.
Assists out the ass. They are going to play very deep. The offense is humming. And Mark Pope is a player's coach, and I think the night and day difference, like it feels. I think Kentucky fans this year are going to feel like they are stepping out of a cult. Like they've just gotten out of the cult of Calipari, and they're just like kind of like reintroducing themselves in the new world. And this cult they were in was saying like, you don't need to play video games or something. And now they just like picked up the new Call of Duty, and they're like, holy fucking shit, dude, I forgot how awesome this is. Or what's something else? Cody, you've been in a cult before. What are some of the shit that
what are some cult things?
What are some cult things you're not allowed to do?
He's grabbing the mic.
Yeah, why are you grabbing the mic? You never grab the mic. Well, have you been in a cult?
He feels comfortable talking.
Yeah, I was like, you've been in a cult. He's like, yeah.
Actually,
I do need to
give me that fucking mic.
Yeah, actually, I can weigh in on this one. What is some shit that you can't do in a cult? What does Scientology say you can't do? I don't know. But I feel like they have been, they've been just like held hostage. They've had like Stockholm syndrome with John Calipari for so long. And last year, it finally was starting to break through that they were like, does this guy suck? Kind of. Has the Calipari? Is the honeymoon over with this guy? Are we kind of over? And then he leaves. But anyway, my point is, Mark Pope gets hired, and the dire Kentucky fans remember him playing, but they're like, are we sure he's a good whatever? Or can he coach? Can he is he Kentucky caliber? Or are we just hired him because he played here? I don't really know. I think they're gonna fall in love with him. I think his personality already is winning people over. He's just like a very, very likable guy. Number two, though, and most importantly, their style of play is just going to be so fun, and they're gonna instead of like running stagnant offense where NBA, you got a roster full of NBA guys like walking the ball up the floor and looking at the bench, and Calipari stomping his over 4, run 4, and he's sweating and he's like yelling at these kids, and you're like, just fucking let him play, John. And instead of doing all that, Pope's gonna his teams are gonna get up and go, and they're gonna run some fun offense, because that's what he did at BYU, and they had some good teams. He brought Jackson Robinson over, and I am curious though. Kirk Kriisa, he didn't play in the exhibition. I'm curious what the Kirk Kriisa Kentucky experience is gonna be like, because he was a roller coaster at Arizona and West Virginia. But anyway, that stood out to me in the exhibition cycle so far. Kentucky is going to be very, very good,
I was reading a little off the AP wire today, some news out of Lexington. I can't get enough of when you refer to a team as the New Look Cats. It literally started with the New Look Cats shot 50% from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
You be the New Look anything, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some juice over there.
I that's the only way I can describe it. I feel like Kentucky fans were in a cult with John Calipari, where they had to pretend like, okay, so we didn't make the Final Four, but we had 3 first-round picks. That's pretty good. And you're like, what? And you just want to shake him. You're like, what is wrong with you guys? Like, you used to be a proud program. You used to care about this stuff. Now, I will say, like, the wins have to come for Pope. Like, the winning the press conference and running and gunning can only get you so far.
Right.
If you play Alabama, Alabama's going to be like, you think you can run and gun? Watch this.
Right. And
you lose to Alabama by 40. Like, that's at a certain point, you got to start stacking dubs. But right now, I think Kentucky fans are going to fall in love with their coach, because he's such a likable guy, but he's also I think the style of play is going to be.
Hearing you talk about that, and hearing a lot of people are echoing the same sentiment you are, which is like, good time to be in Kentucky. Positive upgrade, good change, everything's going to be fun. I don't think there's a more hyped up game, and this isn't going off on a ledge here. Kentucky versus Arkansas is going to be fucking
It's going to be awesome, yeah.
Because that one game, there's only one, is going to determine for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Who's the better coach?
Yeah.
Like, it's all going to go into that.
Cal might retire if he wins. He might just retire and just be like, it's all I wanted. I just wanted to prove.
But who? Okay. And I'm sure you'll hear this later in the show. Who has more to lose in that game?
Kentucky or Arkansas?
No. Coach Pope or Coach Cal?
Coach Pope or Coach Cal? I think it's Coach Cal.
It is.
It's Coach Cal, yeah. Because Pope's like, whatever, I have a long career ahead of me. If Cal loses immediately, it's
took his guys, he's
toast.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about the Kentucky-Louisville. As the number one hater of the Kentucky-Louisville rivalry, I'm going to tip my cap to it and say that I can't wait for that game, by the way. I think Pat Kelsey versus Mark Pope's going to be awesome, and I'm very excited to see the new-look rivalry. Second exhibition game I want to talk about, St. John's Rutgers. I might want to talk about Rutgers more, TJ, because there's some other shit off the court I want to talk to TJ about. I want to get some answers about that.
What the heck's going on?
But Kaderi Richmond of St. John's is going to be. Jim Root was here last week and was like, I asked him the question, where do you draw the line in the AP poll of national title contenders and not? And I think he said like number 11 for him. Auburn. Was Auburn 11 or Auburn's 10 or something like that? Somewhere around there. And they said the one team I would throw in there that's below that line is St. John's, who's not even ranked. And he was like, I think St. John's and I see his point when he says that Rick Pitino has talent, and that's really the only thing you really need to say. But Kaderi Richmond is unfucking real, and that was a friendly reminder watching St. John's versus Rutgers is how good Kaderi Richmond is, but also Rick Pitino is a hell of a coach, and as weird as it was that he was there at Big Blue Madness, I'm over that now, and let's get on with the season and watching. That was a fun game. The Rutgers St. John's game was fun, even though you guys lost. It doesn't matter.
No, I don't think anybody in the Rutgers space cares. Like they're like, we got to see Ace and Dylan, and they looked fucking awesome.
The freshmen were so good.
They looked like they should look. Like they lived up to that.
Ace Bailey he took like there was one. He did the the clip of Patrick Ewing where he's like the one-legged. Have you ever shot that shot? The one-legged step back or whatever. Ace Bailey shot one of those and hit it, and it was like, oh, he practices that. Like, he actually has shot that shot.
It's disgusting.
He's hitting pull-ups like he both those guys look NBA ready right now.
Fucking awesome.
So that was really awesome. But what's going on with two things? The AD, we never really talked about that much on this show.
Yeah.
The AD stepping away. Was there some?
You want the full explanation of where we're at right now?
Kind of.
Pat Hobbs, the athletic director, stepped away like a week before the school year started because of his cardiologist's recommendation. Was then found out that it appears he was having a consensual affair with the gymnastics coach, who was also in the midst of covering up a bunch of complaints from the gymnasts about being like bullied by the coach, the female gymnastics coach.
Oh.
So it was like the athletics department was covering up a bunch of like complaints from gymnasts while the athletic director was having an affair, cheating on his wife with the gymnastics coach.
Wow. Yeah, that's no bueno.
His stepping away went from cardiologist recommendation to actually no, he was cheating on his wife.
That's bad.
Likely with the gymnastics coach.
Okay.
Separate issue completely is now it appears that Rutgers has asked for the termination of their
that was the other thing I was going to bring up. Yeah.
So Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey both played in this exhibition wearing Nikes. Dylan Harper's been wearing Kobe's his entire like promo run all summer, in practice, in all of his media images. He's been wearing Kobe's. And in the exhibition game, they both wore Kobe's. Jordan Rogers, who's a sports marketing speaker and used to work for Nike, posted this video about like how this is like a landmark thing because with NIL and like individual player contracts, they don't know if who outweighs who, if the team outweighs the players. But his point was it's an exhibition, so likely they'll wear Adidas once the real games start.
Right.
Ron Harper, Sr., commented and said, how much you want to bet Dylan's going to be wearing Nike all season. Now it appears that Rutgers has asked for the termination of Adidas deal.
Across all sports?
Across all sports. It's long been known that Greg Schiano is a Nike guy and wants Nike for the football program. This was a contract that came up earlier this year, like at the end of last school year. So this was supposed to be like a re-up. I don't know where
all for Dylan Harper. I mean, he's pretty good.
Yeah. So I don't know how this works with who outweighs who and if it's like worth breaking a contract to keep these recruits at school. But it seems like there's a lot of fucking bullshit going on behind. I don't know what's happening.
Is Nike, as an aside, but it's relevant, is Nike still cool? Is Nike falling off?
At one point, everything else was lame.
Yeah,
I don't think it's that.
Like Nike, it feels like even when I look around the office here, like kids, these kids aren't wearing Nikes. Like when I think every sneaker I own is Nike just because
I'm in the same boat.
It was just like I didn't even know other companies sold sneakers because I was just so conditioned to buy Nikes. And then I thought there was like a moment not that long ago where like any school that wasn't Nike, except for Kansas because they had Adidas just funneling all of their resources into Kansas basketball. And then like Louisville got a little bit. If you weren't Nike, you're just left behind.
Lame,
yeah, you're lame. But now I feel like Nike's kind of.
Yeah, I think it's still definitely the king. Like there was a time where if it wasn't Nike, then you were a loser. But now I feel like the other ones are becoming cool because everyone else was wearing Nike.
Yeah,
kind of one of those things. But
yeah,
I still rock with my boys.
Cody, what are you wearing? The Hokas. The Hokas.
He flexed on you.
He flexed on the Hokas?
Oh.
Damn. I love the idea of podcast listeners like that. They don't know what Cody's.
Cody, what shoes are you
Cody's
wearing?
like people are just like, Cody's my favorite guy on that show. Dude. He's so. There is no Cody. For those of you who are podcast listeners, Cody doesn't exist.
I've thought about that.
I'm just turning and talking to a wall.
Like Cody hasn't said a word today, but you've talked to Cody 7 times.
Oh yeah.
It's like, what if Cody wasn't here?
Yeah, he just doesn't exist. Well, if you wouldn't know, because I would still do it. I would still be doing podcasts, and I would turn and be like, "Cody, isn't that right?" And then just pretend like
it'd be the same thing, same product.
He might not be here again. If you're listening to the podcast,
is Cody
like
real?
Most of you are. Yeah. Comment below. Is Cody? Yeah. So St. John Rutgers, I think it was a fun game. I wanted to talk about that. The freshmen are good. Kadary Richmond's good. The rest of St. John's, St. John's is gonna be ranked almost immediately, and then they're gonna stay ranked all season, I think. And then the final exhibition, I want to talk about Duke.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about Duke. That should be a segment on the show. I want to talk about Duke. Cooper Flagg is so good.
Yeah, he's the real deal.
He's so good. He is. And I said this to Jim last week, and I'm going to reiterate it here. The way I know beyond like everything I've seen from him, I've like seen with my own 2 eyes how talented he is. But the way I know that he is as good as advertised is that there is not a single voice out there that is trying to put out this flame. There's not a single voice out there that's trying to like say pump the brakes on the hype. There's not a single person that's like, there's not like an old head. There's not one NBA old head that's like, there's no player podcaster. It's not like Kevin Garnett was like, I was at the Vegas thing. He's gonna be a good player, but like let's calm down with this white boy. Like he's not all that. Everybody that sees him is like, this guy's unfucking believable. Every high level, like
there's no haters.
Maybe
there's
no
Cooper Flagg haters.
Maybe they're not like fully glazing, but like I've not. If it's out there, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anybody that's like, yeah, I worked out with him, and I got to be honest, like his left hand needs work.
Yeah.
He need. I think he's coming along nice, but he'll
and
be
that's rare. Like
it's very rare.
Like even like
he reclassed. He's supposed to be a high school senior
crazy
right now.
Yeah, I mean, anytime, like you already said it, but like Caitlin Clark or whoever, a young person taking over, all the old heads say like, all right, let's see what they can do. It would be very fair to say, let's see what he can do in the ACC.
Yeah.
Like let's see what he can do in college.
Let's see what he can do against. He's probably going to be good, but like let's wait until he's played a few games.
You're not hearing that.
None of that. Nobody's saying that. And I think it's because as good as he is offensively, and almost all of his highlights seem to be pull up jump shots or dunks or just he's just so fluid. His bread and butter is defense. He's got such great instincts, and he can block. He can guard any position on the floor at the college level. Probably by the time he gets to pros, it'll probably be the same there. And he's just going to be. I think he could be the best defensive player in the country.
Wow.
I think he's going to be. I think he's just. I don't know. There's nothing you could say about this kid at this point that I won't like buy into. I think he's just like unfucking real. And across the board. And again,
Duke will go as he goes. Correct?
I'm stating the obvious, but at the same time, I don't think. There's a number one recruit that comes into college basketball every year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't sit here every year going into every season and say, that guy's the number one. Last year I didn't do it with Isaiah Collier and DJ Wagner. I wasn't like, dude, these guys, look out. I didn't do that. I don't do that every year. And I'm in a position where I am just like, this is going to be, this kid's unbelievable. I think he's going to be very special. And I don't know. And then the exhibition, you see it on full display. He had like 6 assists. He's blocking shots. Now again, these are exhibitions against lesser competition.
Lincoln, Pennsylvania, yeah.
But you see the instincts, and you see, and I've watched enough of these dumbass exhibition games through the years that like you see freshmen that don't look quite there yet, and all that sort of thing. So I don't know. I'm very excited about Cooper Flagg, as everyone else should be, and it's going to be a fun year to have. you have a season where the AP preseason All-American team is a bunch of names you should know if you've watched college basketball. Your Mark Sears and your Hunter Dickinsons and your R.J. Davis and Caleb Love. I think Janai Broom was on the team too. But then you still have the kid in Cooper Flagg that's like the new guy that it makes for a perfect season. Mm-hmm. It makes for the perfect mix of if you're someone that loves things you got that, and if you're someone that's like I need something to spice it up a little bit, boy. This fella is going to spice it up. You know who else is going to spice it up is his teammate. I cannot believe. So I've seen the name spelled out.
Mm-hmm.
I knew he was a good shooter. I knew he was a good player, and I knew that he was going to matter to Duke. I didn't know until I watched the exhibition game that Con Knipple pronounces his name Con Knipple. That can't be right, Tate. Tell me that's not right. Tell me I got that wrong.
Phonetically exactly right, no?
I thought the K would be silent and be like Newple.
Newple.
I thought.
Yeah, because we don't talk about Phil Knight.
We do, Dalton Connect is.
We do talk about Dalton Connect. Phil.
It's not even the cuts. The nipple. It's not Newple.
Newple. Yeah, that could be Newple.
Newpel. Can Newpel?
But it's
Newpel. It could be Newpel.
Huh.
I don't know. That's gonna be tough for me. But he can shoot. Boy, he can shoot.
Yeah, he can shoot.
He can shoot it. Con Knipple.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It's gonna be a tough one, but we'll get there. Con Knipple. He's gonna be good. Duke.
He doesn't sound like a shooter. That's the only thing I hate about the awkwardness. Like, what is Con Knipple? Con Knipple's like a 6'5" white dude walk-on the end of the bench.
Con's
a cool name.
Yeah.
But Knipple.
Yeah, that's an interesting name.
Lastly, recruiting news. We already talked about AJ DeBanza. That's the all eyes on him in terms of the recruiting cycle. I always preface recruiting talk with I don't really follow recruiting that much, but I'm doing this now for if you're new to the show or whatever else. Like, this is not going to be a regular thing. When basketball starts, I pretty much check out unless it's like an earth shattering, like a guy commits to Kennesaw State who's like a 5-star top 5 recruit, and then I'd be like, all right, well maybe we should. That seems crazy. We should talk about that. So I'm not going to do an AJ DeBanza report every show, but yeah, that seems to be the news, is that BYU, as first reported on this show, as fourth reported on this show.
We were top 5 for sure.
We were top 5. As top 5 reported on the show, AJ DeBanza to BYU has some serious legs. So let's keep an eye on that. But again, his value is plummeting. Jeff Goodman said it's $9 million.
This time next week, he's going to be $100,000.
Cut in half. I have 2 other stories I want to bring up. Number one, Braylon Mullins, this kid from Indiana, Jimmy Chitwood type from Indiana, committed to the University of Connecticut over Indiana University just yesterday. And Dan Hurley has now done this twice where he's taken white boys from Indiana. Liam McNeely, the big freshman they have at UConn, was committed to Indiana, decommitted and went to UConn. And then now local kid, which makes it, is a twist of the knife. So yeah, that's just something to keep an eye on, as Dan Hurley is poaching the Indiana recruits.
And it's on multiple layers. And you know me, there's no bigger Indiana fan these days than me. But that's their second 5-star in their backyard not becoming a Hoosier in like 2 weeks. They have the Harrelson.
I went to Notre Dame. Yeah.
And now,
that was a big one, yeah.
But I don't know how to say this perfectly. Indiana, you need to lock in your 5-star white dudes in your backyard.
Lock in the 5-star whites. Because the 5-star whites don't come along all that often in Indiana.
And that's like that dude scream, like he's got Indiana stamped on his forehead.
Yeah, we have the 3-star whites. There are a dime a dozen in Indiana. They are everywhere.
And they all want to go to Indiana.
And they all want to go to Indiana. They're lining up. They're dying. Yeah. We get a lot of 4-star whites. 5-star whites don't come along.
No.
All that often. So when you see them, you gotta get them. You gotta get them. And they didn't. And but yeah, I wonder if Dan Hurley is it personal? Does he hate Mike Woodson?
Well, I saw. So the kid said that there's no one he'd rather play for, which makes sense. Back-to-back national championships, the player development, everything's perfect. Does it seem personal that is he poaching on our turf for a reason, or is he just taking the best play? Oh, I'm an Indiana guy now. Have you not seen the Undaunted? Come on. I can't. I'm an Indiana guy.
You're fighting the daunted allegation.
No, I'm the biggest Indiana fan now because if Ryan Day loses this year, you know who I want to be our coach next year? Indiana.
Oh, okay.
No one wants to see more success than me.
All right. I see now. The easiest way to get IU fans to just drink bleach really is just like put a list together of all the guys.
Could have beens.
Yeah, all the could have beens. Really in like the last 15, I don't know, going back forever really. And they're the guys that go to Purdue, which obviously hurt. They're going to a rival, but like somewhere deep down you kind of understand it that they're like, well, you know, the kid, he went to an in-state Big Ten school. Like you can't.
Right.
It's not that hard to see why he might want to do that. I would certainly never do that because I'm an Indiana fan. But like what you know, but the kids that go out of state, your Greg Odens and Mike Conleys, and
traitors,
Kyle Guys, and
Benedict Arnolds.
It started the first time I remember it. The first like big one I remember. Well, Zach Randolph went to Michigan State, but they were getting IU got Jared Jeffries, I think, in that same recruiting class. So they were like, whatever, we got the better player anyway out of the state of Indiana. But I remember Sean May, whose father was a legend. Scott May is a fucking legend at Indiana. Was on the undefeated Hoosiers team, you know. Grew up in Bloomington. He went to high school in Bloomington, and he went to North Carolina. And they came back for the Big Ten ACC Challenge. I was at the game. Oh my God, I've never heard booed so loud.
Really?
Oh yeah, they booed the fuck out of him.
Really?
And then I remember thinking, I was like, I think if he would have gone to Purdue, I don't know if they would have booed as loud. I think he would have been better off going to Purdue.
Yeah, it's the people that truly like say I need out of this state.
Yeah, it's the people that are like, because if you go to Purdue, I think people are Indiana again. It's not like they're happy about it, but I think this was always my mindset growing up in that state was like, at the end of the day, I want the idea of basketball in the state of Indiana being a little different, a little better, mattering to kids that grow up in Indiana. So if you grow up in that, and I say this as a guy that obviously went out of state for school, but I wasn't a 5-star recruit. But if guys demonstrate, like Jalen Harrelson's going to Notre Dame, so like that's still okay-ish. You miss out on the guy, but you're like, you know, he's keeping it in state.
Pride.
We get it.
State pride.
So that was always my mindset was like, if you go to Purdue, you can't really be that mad because it's a kid who understands that like basketball is a little different in this state. It's the kids that go out of state and go to your UConns and go to your Josh McRoberts going to Dukes, your Kyle Guys going to, you know, when Eric Gordon was committed to Illinois, that was a huge deal, and then they got him to flip to Indiana, and they're like, thank fucking God, dude, we can't keep doing this. I don't know. It's just a funny trend that.
Yeah.
If you wanna annoy the fuck out of your Indiana friends, just put your list together and
I will. After hearing that, I will. But
put your list together.
I don't know. Isn't there something to be said for like? I feel like almost when you grow up so close to a program, go off to college, go to North Carolina.
Yeah, go to something different. Yeah,
it makes sense to me.
Yeah, the older I get, the more I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. But you know, I mean, we're living in a time where Spies Fieldhouse got rid of their basketball courts and put in pickleball.
Yeah.
Courts. So, you know, like I can't sit here in this chair and argue that Indiana basketball is different anymore. You know, I just can't do that. No, I can't. Not when Spies is.
We're holding on for that Final Four weekend. That's going to be.
Not when shit like that's happening.
We're going to be back. We're going to be.
I don't like this. One more thing before we go. What were you saying, Cody? I'm serious this time. I do want you to talk. What were you saying about Coastal Carolina? Before the show. All right, never mind. All right, that's the show. Thanks for
You want that commitment video also?
Oh, that was the other one. I knew I had two. Yeah, turn that on. Show Tate. I want to show you this.
I haven't seen it.
This was the other recruiting news. I almost forgot about this. A kid at Harvard Westlake, which is this like it's where the Illuminati send their kids in L.A.
Okay.
Private school. Johnny Juzang went there. That's a basketball name you might know of guys that played at Harvard Westlake. Kid is committing between. I think there were a handful of schools, but it was
Gonzaga, UCLA, and Duke.
Yeah, Gonzaga, UCLA, and Duke.
Okay.
Right. This was his recruitment video. Watch his mother. I want you to just watch his mother. You tell me if there's anything interesting about his mother.
This decision has been very difficult, but ultimately I decided to commit to Duke University.
Whoa!
Now, my question is,
Mama ain't happy.
Is that something to you? It is, right?
That's the most obvious. That's a thing. Here's my question. Did she know he was saying that and was giving that reaction?
Yeah, was she surprised? She had to have known, but also,
if she knew and gave that reaction.
I will say it's an elite high school in Southern California. Maybe she just got Botox. Maybe it's like, her face can't move. Maybe she's like, it's a huge smile and she just can't get it to
No, you got to go no tap on that one. Like, she's already got to go like, hey, I'm actually happy for my son.
Yeah. And UCLA being on the list. I mean, the way I read it when I saw the video for the first time was like, she wanted him to go to UCLA.
Yeah, no shit.
And
like,
he swerved her.
Which
second.
We don't even, makes sense. Like, I would want my son to go 15 minutes down the road too instead of 50 hours away.
Yeah, across
the
country.
But also, just a little smile.
Yeah,
just a little smile.
Yeah, I almost forgot that. Had you seen that before?
No, first timer.
Yeah, that was good. Cody, go ahead, so we can get out of here. Please, like hurry. We gotta.
Take your time.
We got places to be, dude. We're trying to.
Coastal Carolina is offering a deal, the We Win, You Win money back guarantee, a unique experience where if the men's and women's basketball team combined win 35 games, you'll get a full refund on the season.
So
wow.
The deal is you buy season tickets for men's and women's basketball. They go on to win 35 games combined. You get all of your money back.
If you buy men's or women's basketball season tickets and they combined to win. So
yeah.
And
no
or,
shit.
And or is the verbiage.
Well,
35 isn't that many.
It's not, but I don't.
Are they awful?
I know their men's team is awful, like single digit wins. I'm looking up their women's right now.
My family lives down there. Yeah. That's the Myrtle Beach. I got family down there. I'm gonna tell them to. Coach Titus spends a little bit of time during basketball season down there in Conway. He might get on this.
Men's team last year 9-22, women's team 12-21. So they won 21
games. Oof.
They're pulling. No, listen. When he first said that before the show, I was like, wow, that's really cool. That's disingenuous.
This is
make it like a. I don't know if they're gonna hit it or not. Yeah. That would be exciting.
Yeah.
They've only done it once since joining the Sun Belt.
Oh.
Yeah. Also,
it's not happening.
I want a gambling out. Like I want that to be 21.5.
I'm woke.
20,
like
this is just a way for them to sell more tickets, and then they're not going to hit it.
And then they got you.
But it's
and then they snap their finger. They're like, we tried really hard.
Yeah, it's so out of the possibility. It seems that it's no one's going to buy it for that reason.
Yeah. What's a good idea before I realize that they suck that bad? I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That makes it tough. That reminds me of my pitch to Chicago State when I wanted that job was that I promised that I'll make the NCAA tournament in my first year, and if I don't, you can fire me.
That's genius.
Yeah,
it's like worst case scennario, you get a full year as the head coach.
Yeah, which is all I wanted.
Yeah,
I just wanted 1 year.
You don't want multiple years.
I didn't want to be multiple years. I wanted to just do it for 1 year. But I said if we don't make the tournament, you can fire me. Didn't work.
No,
they didn't call me back. All right, that's the show. Thanks for watching. Have a great week, and we'll see you on the other side.